So we have here for you Joel Bashevkin, who has enormous experience with pro bono activities. So let's listen to his vision about the future of pro bono. Joel, the stage is yours.
If life were so easy in the digital age, there's an on switch for everything. It's a real honor to be here. It was 2.5 years ago that we were at the KPMG offices here. Andras was running around screaming pro bono, like everything's on fire, like come down, this is the new thing. And I was really honored to help support that, and just let's give him and his entire team an appreciation for all that they've accomplished in these few years. So I'm, as you probably hear from my accent, I'm from the United States, which United and States is, the words don't go together right now. I'm honored that I have been working in a field that's about the unitedness, the connectedness of people, of communities, of a willingness to give and receive freely. So I see a very different people and country, and I think it also helps that I live in Berkeley, California, which is a little distant from the Washington, D.C. of the day. I'm here to talk about, and I'm going to take my position as having been down this road for a little while, of throwing some bombs out and giving some seeds around some trends that are happening around the world of pro bono. Not specific, I'll lead the way toward it, but really these are gems for what you can take forward and create as we think about the next age of this field. So I've been told that there's a rude American question. I'll stop being American after a while. There's a rude American question which, when you introduce yourself to someone, you say, "What do you do?" As if that's the most important thing to know, is what is your job? How much do you get paid? What company do you work for? Can you get me a job? Do you make more than me? All of that. And I would argue that in the work that we do, it's the question you ask each other is, why do you do what you do? What is the impact that you want to have on the world you're living in and leading toward and the people around you? So you're in good company. I hope that as you introduce yourselves to each other over these days, that you begin to talk to each other and have these kind of fruitful discussions, and I'll do my best not to ask you what you do. So the original printing press was an amazing creation. No one knew what it was. No one knew what it was about until literacy showed up, until enough of the population could actually read. This is where we are with pro bono today. You are the literate. I think in the age it was the clergy and the royalty were pretty much, so think of yourselves as either religiously or in a state where you have the ability to be democratic and to bring others into this. And it's incredibly contagious, so you're in good company. It's an easy sell. So this is the CCP data from 2014 and 16. It's global data about the rapid growth of pro bono in companies worldwide. It actually doesn't show North America. And it's exponential. It is, by their definition, the fastest growing form of employee volunteerism worldwide. And interestingly, outside of the US, it's akin to when landlines were never installed in Africa and they went straight to cellular phone. In many parts of the world, that's what's happened. The first form of employee involvement in community has been driven out of company work and into communities directly into this field. So for those of you who have a responsibility for a pro bono program, who has seen an increase from last year to this year in your work and in what's happening? Excellent. So I started with Taproot 10 years ago, like basically last month. And the founder of Taproot, Aaron Hurst, was the person that I first worked with. And I asked him, where did your inspiration come from for this movement of professional pro bono? And he showed me the book by John Gardner, an American author, called Self-Renewal. And basically articulating that each citizen, each member of society has a responsibility to continually co-create what community is about through action and reaction and dynamic energy. At least that's what I'm going to take from it and give to you. So I just want to give you that as a sense of the journey that I was on, what brought me to this field as a movement, not as a business necessarily, not as a marketplace, but as a movement and a field about what it means to be truly participating in civic life to your fullest capability, whether it is giving at the top skill that you have to the community around you, or demanding it to drive solutions for those most in need and to make society whole. I just like this quote by Albert Einstein. I actually would argue that pro bono is about change. It's about not banging your head against the wall again and again and doing the same thing. It's about constantly being entrepreneurial and innovative and trying to push the limits of what the human condition, what the interpersonal condition can be about. So what are some of the influences? I'll say that I said I wasn't going to talk American, but in 2008, our banks brought you a wonderful economic crisis. So you're welcome. Sorry. And it revealed how interdependent we all are on each other and how the markets are. In our work, we're able to bridge that hyper-local to the global, and we can think of ourselves potentially as, there are stock exchanges. I think there could potentially be a global pro bono exchange because of that basically talent is the commodity, the talent given freely and openly and through a personal value set. So far, you are all working in an imperfect market. You do not have this natural flow of bringing the right supply to the right demand. That's why we need these intermediary structures to help modulate that, to help refine it. And as you can see from the rapid growth of this work, it's getting easier and easier because we're playing to the harmony, to the frictionless part of why people are involved in this work. So days passed, years passed, it was government's responsibility to communicate with each other. We deferred to governments to negotiate people to people. And while there is now an incredibly disturbing backlash of nationalism and isolationism and those silos, we're also seeing what can happen when companies are acting as good corporate global citizens with their people, their values, and they're actually walking those values cross-border. And we have entrepreneurs and leaders who are out there really making a difference. So I hope one of the people I've loved talking about this topic, we won't bore you too much, is Antoine, about where is the citizen in the global society and the community. So the challenges of our planet are, as you know, immense and ever-present. I would argue that being able to work in new campaigns and models where you think about pro bono and, instead of a pro bono as an end in of itself, it's how can it be matched to other influences and other efforts. So who here is beginning to align their work with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. Is anyone familiar with the corporate group called Impact 2030? Okay. Andras actually brought a work group here a while back. Those of you in the room you're basically the planet's networkers. You're the connectors. You're bringing together the energy, you're the translators. You are doing so much of this work to help people find comfort, solace, and being able to be effective in other realms. You had mentioned sex. I figured, why not? So it's been said that a good marriage, you have elevated serotonin levels. It makes you happy. I would, regardless of your marital status, I would say that being the matchmaker of bringing talent to an opportunity that they can create a thriving relationship, while it hopefully does not include sex and is not about that, is at least about being able to bring people together in a way that you're going to get the serotonin. If you're not getting the serotonin high from making that connection, you're not having enough fun. So I would challenge you to have at least that kind of fun in your work. There's a construct called social discounting. This has been something that has been dogging me, that has been upsetting me for a while. As humans, I want to say it clearly, we minimize the future effects of our actions. So it's often used with climate change. We'll drive that car that uses a lot of gas. It's all right, it's not going to really have, but it has a multiplier effect. I'm an optimist by nature, so when I think about pro bono, I think about the positive multiplier effect that you are creating and espousing and evangelizing and helping others to connect. And I challenge you not to discount what you are doing. Don't over-minimalize the positive impact that you are having on the future of this planet and the people that are on it. So the other thing that we struggle with is short-termism. We're suddenly the value of time is more important than the value of a currency. How much time will this take? What will be the trade-offs? We're constantly working at the 15-minute increment, and thanks to our digital age, we are pretending to multitask and really zero-tasking at everything ineffectively. So how do you, as leaders in this space, claim that space back and give people back the value of being engrossed in something that is where they can become passionate, valuable, and effective? And at the same time, I would argue that, let's see, what's the smallest unit of pro bono delivered? Anybody have, who's running a program that delivers pro bono within, how about, does anyone deliver pro bono in 1 hour? Okay. Hey, Narinder, how about, how many hours do you end up giving? 5 million, $3 million worth of time. All right. So you've got a range, and it's really incredible, but you're constantly proving value on the clock, more so than on the contract. So suddenly you're looking at what is worth my time, what gets me out and up in the morning, and my work with Aaron Hurst recently on finding purpose in the workplace is a way to magnify the value of time, the productivity of the work that you do, and the effectiveness of how you're out there doing it, and whether you're energized and you're ready for more. So you are the proponents of that positivity, of that purpose, that pride of craft, that expertise that we're helping to harness. We also have selective attention. Thanks to things like social media, we can easily shut down and we only listen to the channels we want to listen to. Again, this is what you are trying to do corrective action on when you bring someone into the pro bono relationship. understanding that you're helping them break down a barrier from what they were typically adapting, which is a quick classification, categorization, judgment approach, and self-protection by not going there. So there was a lead pro bono consultant in Los Angeles when I was running the work there, who I asked to run a project in the prisons. And she told me, there's no way I'm going to the prisons. Here's all the reasons that I'm not going to be there and why they should be there and I should be here. So I said, just go take a meeting with this. It's an arts group that does performing arts with the inmates, and just talk to this amazing, charismatic vision leader. So she went in and she said, okay, I'll give it a try. I heard a year later, she's doing her own hours. She's going in regularly, unrelated to this work. So being able to break through that noise, that the switch that we have, to be able to do that is very important. And it's also tremendously valuable, and we'll talk about this shortly, is the value of listening before guiding. There's such amazing work to be done by just being a good listener. We don't give ourselves enough time or integrity enough to do that. And we're moving faster. So all of these things that are happening are going so much faster. I love the fuck up nights. I'm willing to say that out loud. One of the BMW Responsible Leader members is the creator of it, and it's grown exponentially. Coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, we treasure failure. People who are tops in industry love to give us the cringe stories and take us through it, and you're like, oh, I can't believe you did that, but look at what they've been able to generate in that time. The boundaries, we're talking about so many new kinds of organizations and models, and our field is both the beneficiary of this acceleration, because predominantly you are entrepreneurs, or if you work at companies, I would call you an intrapreneur, where you're bringing change and innovation with what you're doing, and you're accelerating that. And I would also challenge you to think about the fact that you are being innovated yourself, as this field is forcing you annually, if not twice a year, to rethink what the goalposts are of where this work is headed. And amazing solutions. So this is a story that was told to me. Some of you may know this. This is by the founder of DataKind, which is the largest data scientists pro bono organization in the world, which I hope you'll invite to become a member at some point soon. There was an aid organization that was trying to figure out what the need was in sub-Saharan Africa. So they sent poll workers out to go knocking door to door, and they'd have these long interview sheets, and they'd start scoring, and they were getting faulty answers because who trusted this person who walked into town? But at least they had something to gauge what the need was so that they could focus the aid. And it was going to take years before they even came up with an answer, and meanwhile, there's malnutrition, et cetera. Someone started to look around and say, you know what? Some of these houses have thatch roofs, some of these houses have iron roofs. So it's, let's have an experiment. Let's send someone around town and count roofs and do a ratio. The more iron roofs, the more wealth. The more thatch roofs, the more need. And this is where DataKind got involved and said, we have satellites. We can take a snapshot of basically all of Africa, 0 on each of these villages. We can create the algorithm that will count and set the percentage of need for each of these villages. And the kicker is, the aid workers did not need to be experts in any of this. They got a very simple email in their inbox that said, hey, these are the communities that are in need by ranking. Go forth and change the world. It was done overnight. Basically, it was the equivalent of a 24-hour project instead of a 2-year project. So that kind of momentum is very powerful, and when you think about what you can do exponentially as opposed to linearly, there's a lot of possibility, and given that you have more of an open mind to this, you're going to get there faster. Impact and impact measurement is increasingly being the way that we know we're getting somewhere, and while the thatch versus iron roof may be like an 80% right, you can at least get some of the key indicators of how you're doing. And they're now off-the-shelf measures that you can install in every organization to measure the social return on investment. And when you are, if you have the opportunity of working with impact investors directly and layering in pro bono, it's amazing what you can accomplish, like Lorhan is doing in Brazil. So let me get to the tech. So there's a very interesting discussion that we're beginning to have in the San Francisco region, which is when we have technology experts who are only looking in their bubble, they develop solutions for lifestyles. But when they do pro bono, and I've worked with many of the companies in the Bay Area, they suddenly start thinking about creating products for life needs, which is a big difference than just lifestyle, nice to have versus need to have. And when you work from need first, you can really approach what is evolving as this new marketplace much better. We need to reduce the valuable staff time we have. We're working on lean budgets. So anything, like if an algorithm can take the place of a person and we can increase the role of the individual rather than being a tactical, make that person a counselor, an advisor, a thinker, I think we're going to be in a much better place than having them spend our valuable time and resources on transactional activities. So we're shortcutting the distance between end users. So worked extensively with LinkedIn to get LinkedIn for Good launched, and making it eminently easy to signal that you want to do pro bono. So does everyone know that on every profile you can check a box that says I'm open to doing pro bono skilled volunteering? And that's in the many millions now that have signaled that, which means they raise their hands, and you can search for them based on your company and that interest, and you can hone in on them and call them on it. So it might have been an aspirational activity, but you are in a position to actually activate them in this way, especially in your LinkedIn groups and such. I would say that the value of platforms like, I'll just say Bright Funds, for example, which it allows any employee instantaneously to create a crowdfunding page and target for a cause. So we have terrible fires right now in my area, and overnight these giving efforts were launching, and it allowed the Googles to basically see where the energy was of their employees and immediately double down and match on that and be a true partner with the employees and synergize. When we launched Taproot Plus a number of years ago, we worked with the people behind using lean methodology, and we took risks of excluding Taproot typical process and approaches, and to get out of the way and to let the end users talk to each other, and they create the contract and the bond, and they actually do really well when they're holding each other instead of Taproot accountable. So there are great models out there, and I'll leave you last on this page with, what if the next time you're a professional on Amazon and you're looking for a professional book, and when you click on it, it's going to give you a list of things you might want to buy, and one of those is, you should do pro bono in this field, as if that's something that is accessible and normative as possible. And I also feel that we should be the harbingers of algorithms for good. That the same way that UPS no longer creates road plans that include left turns that create delays, they just keep turning right. We need to figure a way for this field to move quickly and grow expediently by not wasting time on the left turns that we're never going. The break in traffic will delay us too long, given the challenges that we're faced with and the passion of everyone around us hoping we will succeed on their behalf. And it isn't like we don't have the data to prove it. When Taproot was starting out, we spent the first half of our existence screaming, this is good stuff, this is valuable. And now we have so many data points, we're drowning in proof that for every participant there is value. And it's a perfect way to avoid commitment to say, show me the proof. It's a distract, pushes it back. How do you change social impact? How do you change social situations? You try to do something where you might measure the outputs, but to measure the true social outcomes is difficult. But these are the indicators that we have, and they're better than what we ever had in the past. And if that, when you think about that, you also need to consider who is trusted in society. Are you familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer? So there's an indicator of who trusts industry. The CEO is probably the lowest when they say we're a great company. The employees are incredibly valuable when they say that they're out there to make a difference. And the community organizations are the most highly respected, highly regarded voices on behalf of that company. So that's beginning to help with the reputation goals that companies have for participating in society where they might not otherwise. And if that's not working, you've got places like China and India that are setting some standards for what it means to be a corporation operating. So the role of the CSR person, that if that's your role, or if you are an intermediary, you work closely with them, their role is changing really quick. Instead of, I liken it to a lot of the people I'd work with, they'd run around the company and say, we've got a great project, we've got great things, come down, participate. Now they got to get, they're basically, it's all about the platform. It's getting out of the way and allowing the employees, especially millennials who are demanding, because the lines have blurred. They're basically living a holistic life from the moment they wake up to the moment they put their phone down at night. And they're willing to go there as an employee, but they're also going to demand that their company gives them access to the value opportunities and the importance of the 3 Ps around CSR. So it's really interesting. I've likened Pro Bono in the corporate space to be the transition from corporate social responsibility to CSR to PSR, professional social responsibility. VMware is an amazing example of a company that is invested in citizen philanthropy. They're setting up their employees to do some incredible things. And one of them is, you'll see from today's material, is focusing on how can technology really accelerate this. And they've done some amazing work around it. And then Salesforce is another example of building CSR into the DNA with a 1% model. In my new job that I'll be working closely with the Pledge 1% people who are driving this field of 1% of revenues, profits go to contributions, 1% of product, and 1% of time and talent. So the nature of work, we are a talent field. This is plain and simple, and if we're not paying attention to what's around the corner, we're gonna miss what's ahead. So projections are that non-routine cognitive brain work is going to increase dramatically as automation takes care of so much of the routine. We are going to be a workforce predominantly of independent consultants. By 2050, half of the workforce will not work inside companies, but will serve using a unique expertise to contribute to that company's benefit, which means the remaining corporate employees need to be highly comfortable in consultative process, either giving or receiving. Sound a little bit like pro bono? And so they'll be moving more into a gig model of people will be doing gigs, not long-term positions or jobs. Careers will take a completely different path. There'll be more flexible organizations, collaborative process, and less hierarchy. So with that, how many of you in your work are attempting to develop professionals as part of their pro bono offerings? Who's doing leadership development, professional development? Okay. So this is a unique opportunity as we look at what's failing. I don't want to say this with the commissioner here about youth education, but classroom doesn't really cut it. The Center for Creative Leadership has been clear that the vast majority of learning, 70% is classroom-based, 10% is experiential. But in fact, the way we retain and succeed and repeat is the complete opposite. We need online curated curriculum in micro modules to get that next piece, and then we have to immediately convert it into some action. How to create those pro bono experiences as the means to do that is in your hands. Because the future of this work is about soft skills, not the technical skills. Guess what? Soft skills includes humility, listening, comfort with ambiguity, a global mindset, being able to work without authority but with an influence. And all of these things are at the heart of what pro bono was built on. And what does it mean for you who are the program staff that are leading pro bono programs? So you need development too. And your focus increasingly isn't going to be on the transactional, the technical. The platforms will take care of, getting people together. It's creative problem solving. It's going to be relationship development and building trust, helping to communicate, helping to build an understanding of this. And so I really do believe that you have a unique challenge and opportunity to spearhead this approach. There, in the global network, I think we counted at one point, there are a few hundred people who are uniquely in these organizations who are the leaders in the world of matching talent to and scoping it for project need and helping to keep those on track. A lot of that work in the early days with Taproot was about process and timelines and gated waterfall processes and work plans. And increasingly, those things will be automated tools and resources. So what is left for our people to do but to be the impact junkies? The ones who will say, what is this for? What are we actually trying to accomplish with all of this energy? How does this aggregate? How does this one website or this one strategic plan or this one report aggregate up to a change in a field and a change in society? Again, it's pro bono to what end? So I'll leave you with pro bono is a talent developer. It's an impact creator. It's a business enhancer. But what you are field catalysts. You may have shown up here with your own organization in mind, but you are a collective that is attempting to catalyze an entire field, and I would say many fields of being at that intersection of multiple sectors. And general community involvement may be like flying one of these planes, but pro bono is jet fuel. Pro bono is what you put in the engine when you're ready to go and accelerate really fast and make big changes. And I thank you very much.